Hi everyone. Good evening. Am I audible to you? Let me know if I am audible through the chat. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll wait for about 5 minutes. I'm just working on the live. If you know your friends has to join this, then definitely you have to share the live stream link to your friends. Yes, of course, you can get the recording. The recording will be already now. Since I am recording using the live stream, you can go to my channel and you can watch the session anytime you want. Okay, so don't worry. I will share, I think I have shared the live stream link. I will also share it here. So if there's anyone who has no idea about it, I will share it here as well. Okay. I have shared the link. I hope that you can see that. I think you guys have got right. Okay, we'll get started. Yeah, the live will be like recording. You can watch anytime you want. At the same time, I will be recording it, so don't worry. Yeah. So I will be letting you know what are the guessing questions we have, how much you can score. So, like, I'm gonna give you the whole idea about the biology. Just give me a minute. I will have to do few settings. Okay, we are set and we are done. Let's get started. So, good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible and thank you so much for trusting and joining, and definitely will not make you disappointed. And yes, so today we have to learn as well as, like, I will tell you everything, like, very openly, what are the things that will come and that will be guessed and everything. Okay, because last year whatever the things I told, 50 percentage of things has been printed in the paper. So this time also I have a perspective, and I assure it will also will be appeared in your this time paper also. And I will give you how many percentage you have to study, because guys, you might be thinking, okay, you might be thinking, teacher, now I'm very stressed because we have to study a lot of things in science. It's not like Islam lesson, it's not like other lessons. We have a lot to learn, right? So I decided to reduce your stress 50 percentage. So you have to have a paper, just have a paper with you, a pen with you. So whatever I'm going to tell you today, you are going to mark it down, right? Okay, so like you have I'm going to give you the overall part. Now some people are there, okay, some people are there, they think, if I only study biology, will I get pass? I know there are people, I'm not putting anyone down. I know there are people who think they can't do physics. But however, without getting W, they wanted to get what? They wanted to get a pass. Instead of W, they wanted to get a pass. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to reveal you. If you study only biology, what you will get. Now today we are only focusing biology because today we have only biology. Tomorrow we have the other comprehension, and next we have the other comprehension like physics, chemistry, and all. And listen to me, this month we are having a part of this. That means today we are doing the part 1 of our free biology recap. Part 2 will be happening by December. That means don't worry, I will be covering most of the guest and hardest lesson in your biology. And so December I will be updating a new date. So until that, you will be learning everything today. I will tell you what are the things. Okay, so today is the part 1 biology session. So when you take the biology, okay, when you take the biology grade 10, if you take the grade 11, I'm going to tell you what are the lessons we have in grade 10. So if you take your grade 10 lesson number 1, so if you take your grade 10 lesson number 1, it's chemical basis of life. Then if you take the lesson number 6, it's about what? Plant tissue, animal tissue, it's a biology lesson. And then if you take your lesson 8, it's about characteristics of living organism, it's a biology lesson. And then if you take your biology lesson unit 13, it's about the biosphere, or you can say classification of organism. It's about you are learning about the kingdoms, and you are studying about the organisms in detail, so which is very important lesson. I'll tell you what are the lessons that will come. First, let's get introduced to what are the lessons we have in our syllabus that is belongs to biology. Okay, now let's take the unit 40. It's about the sexual, asexual reproduction of animals and plants. And then you have the final lesson about inheritance. You have to learn about the sex-linked diseases, Punnett square, and you have to learn one of the easiest and interesting lesson, I would say. So these are the biology lessons that you have. That means out of 20 lessons in your grade 10 syllabus, only 6 lessons belongs to biology. Okay, then come to grade 11. In grade 11, what are the lessons you have? Unit 1, tissues. Unit 2, that's photosynthesis. Unit 6 about human body. You're going to study about the human body, the systems, digestive system, respiratory system, and all of them. Right. Then you have the unit 15. That's about what? That's about the biosphere lesson, and very, very important lesson. So these are the lessons, which means totally 10 lessons that is belongs to the biology with your whole syllabus. That means if you take your grade 10 and if you take your grade 11, total 10 lessons, you have to focus on biology. Now think, biology 10 lessons. Now when we study about the physics and chemistry, also I will give you an idea, but let's focus on biology. So when I say about biology, you guys have a idea like it might be easy. For some people it's hard because you have to memorize, you have to understand and all of them, right? And also it takes quite a lot of time to remember them and also to revise the lesson. For that reason, I have a method for you. If you follow this method, definitely you can get full marks in biology. So listen to me. Now, if you take the biology lesson, I will tell you out of these 10 lessons, how many lessons you have to focus. I will tell you how many lessons you have to focus. Now, if you take your biology lesson unit 1 in grade 10, you have to focus only 2%, which means most of the time unit 1 you get it in your MCQs, not in your structured essay. But last year you get a question, you received a question last year, 2024 batch, they got a structured essay question from the unit 1. Especially they got a question related to nucleic acid, like the nucleic acid about they have to say about the DNA, RNA. They got a question out of this lesson. I know you already know about this lesson and you're very good in that. So, but just remember this lesson, don't spend too much in studying this lesson because you're already good at it. Right. Lesson 6. When it comes to lesson 6, around 13 percentage, I would say it will come, especially the diagrams. You have to learn about the cell divisions. So these are very important. I will write down the important part of these lessons. What are the lessons that I guess? But first, listen to me. Come to the unit 8. I will say just 1 percentage of this unit 8 will be appearing in your paper, especially it will appear in your it will be appearing in your MCQ. And sometimes if they decide to skip it in the structure, they say the only part out of this lesson they will be focusing is about the respiration. So respiration part of this lesson, especially you have two experiments under this lesson, respiration. So they will be focusing on that. Come to the unit 13, unit 14. If I take the unit 13 and 14, the major questions that comes from this unit 13 and 14, which means around 20 percentage from unit 13 and unit 14, they will be questioned. Even if you take the unit 20, unit 20, around 20 percentage, we can assure you will get it. That means out of 6 lessons in your grade 10 syllabus, out of 6 lessons in your grade 10 syllabus, how many lessons do you wanted to focus a lot? These lessons, unit 13, 14, 20. If you focus a lot in these, however you can get a pass. Come to the grade 11. If you come to the grade 11, unit 1, you're very good at it. The tissues, animal tissue, plant tissue, the characteristics. So that means I would say only 1 percentage will come, especially in MCQs. Okay, especially you get it in MCQs. I think in 2019, 2020, there was some question. I think 2023 paper also, I saw one question in structured essay about unit 1. But still, I would say this is only 1 percentage you have to spend your time in learning about this lesson. Come to the unit 2. When it comes to the unit 2, can you remember last year, unit 2, they gave around 7.5 marks for the unit 2. That means unit 2 is very important, especially how many experiments do you have? Totally, you have 5 experiments, especially to test the photosynthesis, to test whether carbon dioxide is important, then oxygen is produced during the photosynthesis, to test whether chlorophyll is important for photosynthesis. And then you have, remember, this lesson is very important. Remember, if you're very good at this lesson, do you want to spend time learning about this? No need. Come to the unit 6. So unit 6 is very important because part B, that means part B, essay type question, you get 15 marks, solid 15 marks for this unit 6. Most of the time, I'll tell you this unit 6 will combine with some other lessons. I will tell you the combination of the lesson, how this lesson will be connected when it comes to your paper. Unit 15 also same. You get 15 marks. You get how many marks? Solid 15 marks if you study well the unit 15 lesson. So that means totally how many lessons do you need to really focus on studying? When you take 10 biology lessons, out of 10 biology lessons, only 5 lessons you have to give a, what do you say? You have to give a focus. Other lessons, you're already good at it and you know them. Just you have to refer. But here, especially the diagrams are there. That's the main thing I told you. These lessons are very important because they have the diagrams. So when they have diagrams, then those lessons are very important. Biology is mostly focused on diagrams, naming, terms, everything is important, right? Now you might have got an idea what are the lessons you have to focus. But you don't know what lessons would come like out of this lesson. Now you might ask me, teacher, should I study everything in unit 15? I know the unit 15 lesson is the very biggest lesson. It takes quite a lot of time and energy when you complete this lesson, right? But I'm going to tell you, in this lesson, what are the subtopics that that might be occur in your paper. So if you have the paper and the pen closer to you, you can write it down. And remember, this lesson can give you solid 15 marks. I'll tell you the structure of the paper, how much of the marks you might get it. If you only focus fully biology, will you get pass or will you get fail? I will tell you everything. So first be patient, listen to me, and I'm gonna write it on the board. What are the lessons out in unit 15? What are the subtopics that I expect that would come to your paper? Out of that, I will be teaching it today also for you, right? Okay, look here. Now, if you take your unit 15 in your grade 11, under this, last year, okay, so last year you have got related to the agrochemicals, you have questions related to what do you say, some of the questions related to the cycles and everything. So this year I expect that you will get under the unit 15 of your grade 11, you will get this one, okay. You can expect a nitrogen cycle. They can come. It can come because nitrogen cycle can appear, because last year they didn't give any cycle, but they had given certain things like about the concentration, sustainable resources, those things they had given. Now, this year, we expect some non-contagious diseases. So, non-contagious diseases means non-communicable diseases by the pollution. So, they can ask about it. They can give you a graph. By looking at the graph, they can ask you how many people they have got heart attack, cholesterol. So, they can give some kind of a typical kind of a graph where you can expect, okay, because these things 2 years before, a year before only, they have given this. By looking at the pattern of your paper, by looking and understanding the pattern of your paper, I expect this would come, and out of this at least 50 percentage may occur, I would say, because last year also I have the proof, whatever the things I have said and that has been appeared in the paper. So this time also I assure that would come. You can give a try, okay. So non-contagious diseases, this under this it can come. Then you have ecological pyramid. I'll teach you ecological pyramid, nitrogen cycle. So we will be learning about that. Then you can have sustainable. Under the sustainable agriculture, you will get sustainable agriculture uses. So you can get something out of that. That means if it is unit 15, you are getting 15 marks. In that, they can connect. This part can connect it to this one can connect it to this one. You don't want to expect them to appear as a single topic. They will come interconnected. They will be appearing interconnected, right? So you can say sustainable agriculture uses, you can get that. Or else the final one is typical growth. So you can get typical growth curve can be appeared. So typical growth curve can be appeared. So this is also easy. Whatever the things I'm saying, maybe the heading might be looking complicated, but when you learn, it's one of the easiest part, I could say. Solid 15 marks you can score in that, okay. So typical growth of curve population, right? Then when it comes to the unit 15, these are the things we can expect this year, okay. These are the things we can expect this year. Last year, I said you last year what are the things they have given. Then when it comes to unit 2, so when you take the unit 2 of your grade 11, last year they gave a experiment whether oxygen has been produced during the photosynthesis. So that experiment, of course, you will get any experiment. So that means you can expect the experiment about carbon dioxide, or you can expect the experiment about sunlight. This time, sunlight or carbon dioxide might appear. And remember, this photosynthesis lesson can be connected with your unit 1. It can be connected with your unit 1 grade 10. It can be connected with your unit 1 grade 10, because in your grade 10 lesson you have the starch, You have the starch part, you have the protein part, right? So sometimes the photosynthesis, starch things, and everything can be connected with the unit one. So you can expect this to be happened. Okay. Then when it comes to unit 40, when it comes to unit 14 and 13 of your grade 10. So when you take the unit 14 of and grade 14 and 13 of your grade 10, last year, like, what did you get is last year they had given about asexual reproduction, specially, sorry, sexual reproduction of flower. They had given some questions related to the vertebrates and invertebrates. So this year we can expect you to get asexual reproduction, especially about grafting. You can get about grafting. Okay. So you can get questions related to grafting. You can get grafting or tissue culture. This time you can get grafting or tissue culture. Then again, okay, I will write it over here. Just give me 5 minutes. It's Azan here. Just give me 5 minutes. Once you have done writing, let me know. I will erase it and I will write the next. Give me 5 minutes. It's Azan here. After the Azan, I will continue. Okay. Thank you for waiting. Yes. So, yeah, I'm from Qatar. Right. Okay. So, here, what is happening is if you take the unit 14 and 13, grade 10, this year we can expect questions related to vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay. Vertebrates and invertebrates. Last year also they had a filling the blanks related to the vertebrates and invertebrates related to their feature. This year also we can expect especially about the diagram, any and also we can expect about the asexual reproduction. We can expect the asexual reproduction of the plant, especially when it comes to the grafting. We can take grafting. I will teach you grafting. I have to say you what are the things I'll be teaching you. Once I give you all idea, you will get. Okay. Right. Then I will be teaching you tissue culture. Last 2 years they didn't give the questions related to that, so this year we can expect about grafting and tissue culture. And when it comes to the, yeah, when it comes to the unit 6 of your grade 11, if you come to the unit 6 of your grade 11, last year they gave related to the excretory system. Nervous system was given last year. Last year, excretory system, some questions related to the excretory system. And also they gave you some questions related to the nervous system. Both the excretory system and nervous system were connected. This year, you can get respiratory system. You can get respiratory system. Last before year they gave blood circulatory system, so I won't be expecting blood circulatory system, but sometimes they can give you blood circulatory system. I'll tell you the connection of the system, okay? So sometimes, respiratory system is always connected to the blood circulatory system. Blood circulatory system. If they are talking about the blood circulatory system, sometimes they can speak about the lymphatic system. They are like interconnected. They're interconnected. These systems are interconnected. If they will not only talk about the respiratory system, remember, they will talk more than grade 11, okay? So they will be talking more than one system. Last year, they spoke about the hormones, nervous system, coordination, hormones. Last year, it was full of that. Last before year, they were speaking about the human circulatory system, and some of the, they were talking about the lymphatic system. Okay? Am I audible? Am I audible? If I am audible, let me know. Some says that I'm not audible. Okay, I'm audible, it seems. Make sure if you can't hear me, you can leave and join back again, because maybe there can be some issues. Okay, right. Okay, so you can have, and also I forgot to mention here, you can get questions related to the dicot and monocot plants, especially their features. It can be like 2 mark question, but don't worry, it's a small one. Then if you take the unit 20 grade 10, if you take the unit 20 grade 10, I will 100% assure that you will get question related to the sex linked diseases, especially hemophilia, thalassemia. You will be getting questions related to that. So, and also diagram, you should know to draw the diagram, especially Punnett square. Punnett square, you have to draw the diagram. Punnett square, I'll teach you how to draw this diagram. Okay, so these things you can learn. The rest of the lessons, like say unit 1, like if I say unit 1 lesson, okay, unit 1 lesson grade 11, unit 1 lesson grade 10, you can expect any questions, because those lessons very well. It can be about carbohydrates, proteins, but you have to expect any questions. But tissues, question tissues 2023, it has been appeared, it's regarding the muscle tissue and everything. But this year, I don't expect that. But you will have the questions related to that in your MCQs, right? So these are the expected ones. You can study very well. Now I'm going to tell you, by focusing only in essay type. After the diagram, you have the Punnett square. You have the Punnett square, right? Okay, so listen to me. I am going to tell you that now I will say you the places where you will get biology questions. Like if you take your paper, in this place, how many marks you have to score. If you score this much of marks, how much of the marks you might be getting, I will tell you completely. If you have done writing, I'm going to go with that next part. Okay, I will go with that next part, so you will understand out of 200 how much would you score. Right, great. Okay. Okay, look here. Now, when it come to the questions location, I'm not going to tell you about the MCQ. For the MCQ guessing, I will tell you on our part 2 day. Part 2 will happen by December. Part 2 recap will be happening on December. Then my screen might be working. Maybe I think you have to leave and join back again. If not, you can go to the live stream and you can watch. Yeah. Yeah, I will say you in physics, I will say you in chemistry, what are the questions, they will be connected. But listen to me carefully, because I have to tell you something, guys. If you are studying for science, don't study biology, chemistry, physics all together. If I can, I would have kept all of them together today. it's impossible. You can't learn like that. You have to study biology today, means today you have to only focus on biology. If you're studying on chemistry, then today you have to study only chemistry. Same like that, if you're studying for your exams, you have to divide the comprehensions and you have to learn. If you are dividing the comprehensions properly and if you're learning, then definitely you can have a successful rate of your paper. So make sure don't study everything at once. You can't focus, your brain can't focus that. Got it? Right. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the question focus. For the MCQ guessing, I will tell you that on another day. That is a top secret. Until now, I haven't said anyone, but I have found a way. But I will tell that to you in the part 2. But listen, I'm going to tell you how to focus in your structured essay and essay type question. Okay? Listen to me. If you take your question side, if you take your structured essay, so structured essay, if you take your structured essay, under the structured essay, I'm going to tell you how many biology question you will have, and especially, okay, I will tell you how to memorize and everything. So just listen to me. Okay, so what is happening is, if you take the structured side of your paper, under part A, if you take your structured essay, you take the part A, the first part of your structured essay, it's biology. It's biology. The first question, it's a compulsory question. Structured essay is always compulsory, and always you have to provide short answers, not too much, brief answers. Brief answers are short answers. You have to always give brief answers when you are answering the questions related to the structured essay. So the first question is always biology. That will carry how many marks? It will carry 15 marks and it is compulsory. So that means what is the lesson they are always focusing on this part? What is the lesson they are always focusing? Always unit 15 will be, unit 15, what? Unit 15 will be their biggest question. So from the unit 15, the whole question will be about unit 15 only. So that means by reading, by understanding the unit 15, you can get solid 15 marks. So see, you might think, okay, which grade is that? That's grade 11. Grade 11, unit 15. Then the second question is also in structured essay. It is also biology. I will teach you how to study science. Okay, listen. So biology is going to be the second compulsory question again. That is also going to be 15 marks. That is also going to be what? 15 marks. So in this second question, what are the expected lesson? They will be always every year they focus on that. There is a focusing lessons, right? So the lessons they will be focusing is mainly unit 13 and unit 14. Mainly they will be focusing on what? Unit 13, unit 14 and unit 1 of grade 10. And sometimes they can give you questions related to the unit 2 grade 11. So these so far in this position, only these lessons has been appeared repeatedly. Only these lessons has been appeared repeatedly. These two lessons, easiest lessons. These two lessons, if you focus more, still it's going to be easy. So see here, almost in the structured essay, you are going to score 30 marks. You're going to score how many marks? 30 marks. See, by focusing on biology, we'll see how much you can score. Look here. Now in structured essay, only these two lessons, I mean these two sections, you will have biology. The rest will be physics and chemistry. We are not going to talk about that. Now come to the essay type question. When you come to the essay type question, it's a selective question. So that means you will have question 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means you will have 5 questions. Out of 5 questions, you have to select 3 questions. So that means the questions will carry how many marks? Each question will carry 20 marks, and you have to select how many questions? You have to select three questions out of the essay type. Out of the essay type, you have to select the three questions. Now we are talking about biology. Since we are talking about biology, I will tell you what are the question. That means in which question number you can find only biology. Okay, you will only find biology. Question number 5. Question number 5. Part B, you find only biology which carries complete 20 marks. How much? Complete 20 marks. So, what is happening is in this question 5, what are the lessons that you will get? What are the lessons you will get? You will get unit 6 of your grade 11. You will get a diagram. It can be about the digestive system, respiratory system, or you can get about the circulatory or lymphatic system. You can get any system here. Along with that, this can be connected. This lesson can be connected with your unit 6 grade 10, can be about organelles. You can connect with the organelles sometimes, not 100%. Okay, so grade 10, it can be connected your organelles. I can remember 2020 paper, this section was both the digestive system and the organelles were there about mitochondria. They gave a diagram to fill the diagram with their functions, to identify the pictures. You have to identify whether it's a Golgi complex or nucleus. You have to identify. Then when you come to the that means question number 8. If you take the question number 8, okay, target diagrams, I told you target diagrams can be human circulatory system. You can get the asexual reproduction of plants. Yeah, you can get the diagrams. I already told you the lessons that will be appearing. From those lessons, any diagrams would be appearing. Okay, right, look here. Question number 8 is not a complete biology question. Question number 8 is not a complete biology question. This question number 8 is there, right? This question number 8, under the question number 8, only part A. You know that when you take essay type question, in the essay type question, they will have a division like part A, part B, part C. Same like that. But if I take the question number 5, all parts are biology. But in the question number 8, part A, only that part will be what? Only that part will be a biology part. Especially, they will always include the unit 20. They will always include the unit 20 grade 10 lesson. I have seen this many times. They will be including unit 20 or unit 8 of your grade 10. Unit 8, I can't assure that, but unit 20 will be there. Unit 20, anytime it can be there. It can be included here or anywhere. But most of the time, I have seen unit 20 always comes in the question number 8. It always comes in the question number 8. So let me tell you, this part A, a part of question 8 is biology, right? So since because of that, it is carrying 10 marks. Maybe part B under the 8, okay? It's grade 10. It's grade 10. It's grade 10. Okay. So when you take the question number 8, under the question number 8, you have the part A. Maybe the part B can be a physics. It can be physics. So sometimes there is a high chance you won't be selecting that. So what I'm going to do is to make you understand, say these are compulsory. No, that means 30 marks you have to score in biology is compulsory. Say you selected the question number 5, but you ignored the question number 8 since it was hard. So what did you do? You selected the question number 5. So that means 30 plus 20. That means totally how much are you scoring for the biology out of 200? You are scoring 50 out of 200, which means if you are a person without even doing your MCQ, without even doing the other physics and chemistry, and if you're only person to focus on biology, you will get 50 out of 100, which means your final marks will be 25 percentage. That means your marks will be how much? 25 out of 100. That means, are you a pass student? That means if you're a person who got good marks in your let's say MCQ, you can go beyond the 30, which means you can get a S. you can get a S. So did you understand? If you are a student who is just thinking, if I get only a pass, how can I only get a pass? Then you only have to focus on biology. If you're only focusing on biology, then you will get a S, not a B or C or D. I mean, like, you are not going to get a W also. You can focus on S. So the main target here is, if you are a student who is very good in biology, if you can do it, you can get solid 25 marks out of 100. Did you understand the importance of this? Did you understand? Clear with that? Got the idea? Got the idea? So this is a kind of a mind calculation. I used to calculate this mind calculation. So remember, this is how. So if you are a person who is just only focusing on biology, then remember 25 is going to be your marks. We can't assure with the MCQ. I told you for the MCQ we have a divider. Just remember, this is going to be your mark if you're just without any wrongs. Just think, without even getting any wrongs, if you're getting a solid marks, 25. If you can get good marks in your MCQ, you can go beyond 30, which means solid pass. You are pass, not fail. So that's how you focus. If you're a student who can't do the rest, focus on biology only. You can be pass. That's it, I would say. But I'm not encouraging you to do only biology. But if you are a person who lost hope, you need motivation, think you can do it well more than this. But this is how it works. Got it? So did you understand what are the places you have to select the biology? What are the places without less, without so much effort, you can score solid 50 out of 200 for biology. Then the rest 50 you can gain from where? From the chemistry, physics. You can get an A. We just need 150 marks out of 200 to score an A, which is going to be 75 out of 100 to score an A. So that means almost we have collected how much? Out of 75, we have collected a 25. Just 50 is very, very crucial. That means you can give a little effort to get 25 marks from the chemistry. You can give a little effort to get from 25 marks from the physics. Why don't you try? You have to try. So if you try, you can get it. Clear? Are you clear with this? Are you clear with this? Yes. Are you clear? Okay. So do you wanted to know what are you going to learn? Do you wanted to know what are you going to learn? Yes. Okay. I'm going to tell you. I said you these are the lessons expected part that will come to your O level, right? Those things only you are going to learn. Those things only you are going to learn. So I'm going to write it down. If you want, you can mark it down, or if you don't want, just to make sure that you are clear, I'm going to say you first, I will be teaching you about grafting. And then you will be learning about the tissue culture. So this lesson is belongs where? This lesson is belongs to the unit 14, grade 10. You will be studying about this. Then you will be studying about the male reproductive system. You will get this year, I will say, sometimes you will get the lesson related to what? Male reproductive system. If they don't have any diagrams to be taken, I will teach you the male reproductive system. That is also belong to this lesson. Okay. Then you will be studying about nitrogen cycle, nitrogen cycle, and ecological pyramid. So which is belong to the unit 15, grade 11. Unit 15, grade 11. And fourth one, you will be studying about the Punnett square, how to draw Punnett square. If there is anyone who doesn't know to draw Punnett square, and if you don't know anything about genetic disorder, sex-linked diseases related to the inheritance, so this is belong to unit 20, grade 10. See, I'm covering everything for you. And fifth one is, I will be teaching you about circulatory system, respiratory system, which is belong to the unit 6, grade 11. Whatever the things I told you, that will be important for your O levels. I'm covering that. Okay. Then sixth one is kingdoms. You're going to study about the domains, kingdoms in a very short way, vertebrates, invertebrates in a very short way. That means unit 13 will be completely covered a bit. Okay. Then the seventh part you're going to learn is about organelles. You're going to study about the organelles, cell divisions. That is belong to what? Unit 6, grade 10. Unit 6, grade 10. And then you are going to study about the respiration. You're going to study about the respiration. That means this respiration is not belong to the unit 6 of your grade 11. You are going to study about the respiration that comes under your unit 8, grade 10, under the characteristics of organism. There is an experiment that you have to learn. That experiment, most of the time I have seen, they said that will be appearing most of the time, but I didn't see any questions related to that. Might be appearing, this part can be appeared, because some people, they will skip. They know if the students are very aware about the lesson, they will be skipping. So what they will do, they will think, if you're skipping that lesson, we will put that lesson for you. That's how they do. So because of that, I will be not skipping this part, I'll be teaching. So these are the things you will be covering and you will be getting, which means the whole recap is like most important parts will be covered. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? Yes, are you okay with that? So I'm gonna start with the grafting, tissue culture. So before I start, I'm going to tell you something, okay? I'm going to tell you something. When I'm teaching, okay, when I'm focused, okay, when I'm focused in teaching something, I don't see the chat box very often, okay? If you put any doubts while I'm doing something or teaching, I won't be able to reply because I'm very focused what to teach, because I should not miss any of the key points that I have to tell you, right? So once I teach a certain part, okay, let's say I will be teaching a small introduction of that, and then I will ask you, did you understand? At that time, if you say yes, then I will be moving to the next part. If you say no, I will explain that again to you. Okay, you agree with that? Because that will be a good thing, I would say, because yeah, so that will be making us more easier to have a good interaction. Right. Okay. So listen to me, and you are going to study about the grafting, and which is a very easiest point, I would say, the easiest part that will come. Okay, right. Listen to me. Now, when you take the reproduction, now we are studying about what lesson? We are studying about unit 14 lesson. We are going to study about what? Reproduction. We are going to study about the reproduction. So when we take the reproduction, under the reproduction, you have two types of reproduction. One, you have asexual reproduction, and other one, you have the sexual reproduction. Okay, so you have two types of reproduction. One is sexual reproduction, other one is asexual reproduction. I will come to the sexual reproduction, about the male sexual reproduction. We will be studying about that in detail later. And the flowers also. We will be studying about the plant sexual reproduction also in detail. Before that, let's come to the asexual reproduction. Under the asexual reproduction, you have two types of asexual reproduction. One is natural vegetative reproduction, and other one is artificial vegetative reproduction. So out of the natural vegetative reproduction and artificial vegetative reproduction, one of the important part that you could take out of this lesson is the artificial vegetative reproduction, where you are going to study about the one of the artificial reproduction is what? Vegetative reproduction is grafting. So what is grafting? What do you mean by grafting? So when you take the grafting, listen to me very carefully. I'll tell you like a kind of a way that you would understand. Now, say for example, now you have a tree closer to the house. That tree is belong to you. You have a house and you are living in it, and closer to your house you have a mango tree. We are going to take the example as what? We are going to take the example as the mango tree. So the mango that is produced by this tree is a sour mango. It's a sour mango. Some people like sour mango, some people doesn't like sour mango. Okay, so now what is happening is, the speciality of your tree is, they are like, means the speciality of your tree that is closer to you is the strongest tree. You can see that this tree is very strong. It can withstand any climatic changes, especially hurricane, or it can be rain. It can withstand. That means that is a speciality of your tree. But what is the minority of your tree is, your tree is producing sour mango and you don't like sour mango. Okay, So now what is happening? Now, one day, what are you doing? You are visiting your friend's house and you saw closer to your friend's house there was a tree that is also mango tree. So this mango tree is producing sweet mango. What is it doing? It is producing what? Sweet mango. So this sweet mango, what did he do is he ate the mango which is produced by this tree, and he was feeling sorry that what did he think? He was feeling sorry. Why my tree is not producing sweet mangoes? It's always sour mangoes which we don't like. So what happened? The friend of this guy, let's say, now you went to your friend's house, no? So your friend said that, don't you know, there is a way that we can produce, we can change our tree production. That is going to be grafting. So what is grafting is you are going to change the way of the production of your tree. Now say if your tree is producing sour mangoes, you are doing a grafting to make the tree to produce sweet mangoes. Now, did you understand? Did you get an idea? Did you get an idea what is a grafting? Yes, now you can see whether you have a doubt or whether you don't have a doubt. Yeah. They are going to change the way the production of the tree. That means if the tree is producing sour mangoes, by doing grafting, you can make the tree to produce sweet mangoes. That is what you are saying grafting. It's a technique. It's an artificial technique. Okay, for this you don't need notes, but if you want you can write down the notes. Just understand, because writing down the notes and everything you should have done 2 years back. So yeah, you can just understand. Okay, if you don't understand, just listen to me. Okay, okay, listen. Okay, I'm saying you. Now what happened? Now you have a tree closer to your house. So this tree, what is it doing is it's not producing a good sweet mangoes, but it is always producing sour mangoes. Okay, the now, what is happening? You are going to your friend's house and you saw a mango tree closer to his house, and you ate the mango from this tree. And this tree is producing sweet mango. So, what are you doing? You are worrying. You are crying. Why? Your tree is not producing sweet mangoes. So, what happened? Your friend suggested a technique that to make your tree to produce sweet mango is grafting. Okay, so now what is happening is to do grafting, there are some rules and regulation. There are rules and regulation. Listen to these rules and regulation. To make to do a grafting, what are you supposed to do is your tree should be strong. Your tree should be strong. Remember, the first point that you have to remember is when you are doing grafting, the tree has to be strong. So if the tree is strong, we can do grafting. If the tree is not strong, we can't do grafting. So now remember very carefully, what was the speciality of your friend's mango tree? It was yummy, good quality. It has good characteristic of the, what do you say, it has the good characteristic in that tree. So because of that, you decided to do what? You decided to do the grafting. To do the grafting, we can do the grafting by two ways. One, by taking a twig. So what do you mean by twig? Twig means if you're going and getting a branch, if you're going and taking a branch from this tree, that is we call it as twig. Or if you're taking a stem of this tree, if you're taking a stem of this tree, or if you're taking a branch of this tree. But remember, if you're taking a branch or the stem of this tree, this branch or the stem does not have, they shouldn't have flowers, they should not have tender leaf. You know what is tender leaf? No, baby leaves, new leaves. They should not have any new leaves, they should not have any fruits. So you have to take a plain twig. It can be a branch or it can be a stem. Okay, so instead of the twig, you can also use a bud. You can also use a bud. So you can use a bud or a twig. So when it comes to grafting, there are two types of grafting that you have to learn under this lesson. One is a twig grafting, other one is a bud grafting. But first I'll explain you before we go to the twig grafting or the bud grafting. Okay? Right, listen to me. Now, to do the grafting, you should remember. Now, I'll ask you one question, okay? Now, say for example, there is a snake. No, no, no. You have in your O levels, you have a story, Singhabahu story, right? Take the same example, okay? Now, say there is a lion. If the lion is getting married to the human, do we really get a baby that is mix of lion? Do we get a baby that is mix of lion? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible? No. Why? Because human is a different species and lion is a different species. Lion plus lion, you can get a cub. You can get a cub, but human and human can get a baby, which means same species can reproduce. Different species can they reproduce? Can't. Now think, when you're doing a grafting, you have a mango tree, you have a papaya tree. Can you do grafting with the mango tree and papaya tree? Can't. So if you're doing a grafting, they should belong to the same species. If this is a mango tree, this also should be a mango tree. Now did you understand? Clear with that? Got the idea? So, if this person is the mango tree, this also should be the mango tree. That means they should belong to where? They should belong to the same species. So, what is the first? What is the second rule? First rule is your tree has to be what? Your tree stem has to be very strong. The second rule is they should belong to the same species. They should belong to where? Same species. Some. Now listen. Now when you are doing grafting, now think, okay, the one whom are you going to change here? Are you going to change your mango tree, or are you going to change your friend's mango tree? Whose mango tree are you going to change? Whose mango tree are you going to change? Are you going to change your friend's mango tree, or are you going to change your mango tree? Your mango tree, right? So if you are going to change your mango tree should cooperate in giving the root system. That means when you are doing grafting, your tree is going to change, right? That means now think, where will you get the fruit? Will you get the fruit in your shoot, or will you get the fruit in your root? Where will you have the fruit? Where will the fruit will appear? In the shoot, right? It will appear in the shoot. Now say from my shoot, from the tree that I have, from the shoot of my tree only, I'm getting the sour mango, right? Can I put my same shoot for my tree to get the sweet mango? Can't. That means, remember, if I am going to change this tree, if I am going to change the production of this tree, I have to change what? I have to change the shoot of my tree. So, which means if my tree has to be changed, my tree is going to give the contribution of what? My tree is going to contribute the root system. That means my tree is going to exist as a root system. Now, what is happening? My friend will give a twig, or he will give a bud. So, what I will do? I will take the twig or a bud of my friend's tree. What will I do? That is going to act as the shoot. That is going to act as what? Shoot system in my tree. So, what is happening? Now, we are going to create a new tree. To create a new tree, contribution of my tree, contribution of my friend's tree, both together, now we are going to create a new tree. To create the new tree, what are we going to do is, I want my tree to exist as that. So because of that, I wanted to change only the production, right? So where's the production area? If you change the production area, you will get a new production area, right? So what is happening? You will cut the shoot, you will cut the tree into half. The shoot part of the tree will be completely taken out, and if your tree's root system, if they are very strong, you can do grafting. So what is happening? You are going to take the root system of your tree, and you're going to take the shoot system of your friend's tree, which can be a twig or which can be a bud. So what are you going to do? You're going to connect. So in grafting, the root system of your grafting, we call them as stalk. What do we call them as? In exam, you should not mention as root system and shoot system. How you have to mention in your exam? They will ask you, they will give a picture like this. Name the parts. How would you name it? The root system in grafting, we call it as stalk. The shoot system in grafting, we call it as what? We call it as yawn. We call it as what? We call it as yawn. So, in a grafting, they can ask you what are the two parts that is involved in grafting. One is stalk, other one is yawn. Until here, any doubts? Until here, any doubts before I go to the next part? Until here, any doubts? No doubts? Others? No doubts? Right, great. So now what is happening? Now stock and the sion has to combine together, right? To combining that only, I'm gonna teach you. Okay, remember, if my tree's root system is strong only, I can do the grafting. If not, I can't do the grafting. Okay, listen to me. So now what is happening? So what is happening is, now I am going to connect the sion and the stalk. So here comes the two types of grafting. If I am using a twig as a sion, when I'm doing grafting, we call it as twig grafting. If I'm using a bud as a sion, when I'm doing grafting, we call it as bud grafting. So there are two types of grafting. One is a twig grafting, other one is a what? Bud grafting. So twig grafting is what? You are using a twig when you are doing grafting. Bud grafting means what? You are using a bud when you are doing grafting. So make sure when the twig and the, that means when the sion and the stalk combine together, only new, there will be a new plant that will be growing. When the bud and the stalk, that means the bud and the stalk combine together, only new plant will be growing. So listen to me. So whose characteristics will appear to my plant? Whose characteristics will be appear to my plant? My friends, trees characteristic will be appear into my plant because my friend's tree is producing sweet mangoes. That's what the main person to give the characteristic is the shoot system of my plant, that is going to be the sion. So the either sion has to be a twig or it has to be a bud. So now listen to me. When I am doing twig grafting, when I am doing a twig grafting, listen to me. The sion is there, right? When I am doing a twig grafting, the sion has to be a good quality. That means if I am going to take a branch from my friend's tree, the branch of my friend's tree has to be free from diseases, free from the pest, free from flowers, tender leaf, fruits. Then only I can do it. This means, can you do grafting by your own self? Can't. The one who is very experienced, expert in grafting only can do grafting. If not, the tree will dry. It will die. So if it dies, it's a big loss. Killing a tree is, what do you say? It's unfair. So because of that, grafting cannot be done alone. It's a big process. It's not a small process. Think you're cutting a tree. Is it easy? No. So think. So what is happening is, if you're taking a twig, remember the twig, the rule for the twig is twig has to be cut in the V shape. In what shape it has to be cut? It has to be cut in the V shape. If you are taking the stalk has to be cut in the T shape. What is the shape of the stalk? The stalk has to be cut in the T shape. The scion has to be cut in the V shape. That means the T and the V will be combined. They will be lock. They will be lock. So when they are lock only, what will happen? So most of the time, where are we doing this grafting? We are doing this grafting in dicotyledonous plant. So where are we doing the grafting? We are doing the grafting in the dicotyledonous plant. So why are we doing this in a dicotyledonous plant? Can you remember? Unit 1, grade 11, you studied about meristematic tissue. There are three types of meristematic tissue according to the location. One is the apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and lateral meristem. Now think about the lateral meristem. What's the function of the lateral meristem? Lateral meristem will increase the width of what? It will be increasing the width of the stem. So that means most of the time the lateral meristem is always present in dicotyledonous plant. So specially give me an example for dicotyledonous plant. Mango tree, because the stem is wide. What is the reason the stem is wider? In the dicotyledonous plant, you have a tissue, lateral tissue, the lateral meristematic tissue. So this lateral meristematic tissue will have a cell. We call it as cambium cell. We have what? We have the cambium cell. So if you take the cambium cell, the cambium cell is the main person to grow. It is the one who is helping you to grow the stem. So the stem will be growing due to the help of the cambium inside the dicotyledonous stem. But if I take the coconut tree, the slimmest stem that you can find in coconut tree, they are monocotyledonous plant. Can I do grafting in monocotyledonous plant? Big no. A big no. We say we can't do grafting in monocotyledonous plant. So we can only do the grafting in dicotyledonous plant. So why? Because they have the ability of growth. Meristematic tissue, they loves to grow. The growth, they actively get divided by mitosis. They helps in growth. So that is the reason we say this grafting is happening in where? Dicotyledonous plants, because they have secondary sexual characteristic. So listen, so when it comes to twig grafting, what is the format you are cutting? You have to cut the scion in V shape, you have to cut the stalk in T shape. So when they are combined together, you will wrap it with the polythene, you will be putting some growth hormones. So what is happening? So if the root and the shoot combine together with the help of the cambium tissue, cambium cells, what will happen? The plant will have a uniform growth. Finally, your plant can get what? Sweet mangoes. Did you understand? Got the idea? Yes. Bud grafting. So what is bud grafting? Means you will take a bud from the your plant. So if you take the bud from your plant, and what are you doing? You are going to combine the bud. You are going to combine the bud with your tree. Let me tell you this. This is a different one. But before that, any doubts? Before that, any doubts? Okay, I'll explain you the cambium cell part. Okay, others are asking. Just listen to me. Now, you have studied in Unit 1, Grade 11, meristematic tissue, right? In the meristematic tissue, can you remember you studied about the lateral meristematic tissue? So, lateral meristematic tissue, now tissue is made up of what? It is made up of cells. So, what is the special cell you can find in the lateral meristem? Cambium cells. So the cambium cells are the one who helps to do the grafting clearly, which means if the cambium cells try to get attached with the scion, that means there will be a uniform growth, which means there is a secondary sexual growth that can be taken place in dicotyledonous plant. But in the monocotyledonous plant, will there be any growth? No. There won't be any secondary sexual growth. If you cut the coconut tree, can you fix it with another person? No, it's impossible because they don't have any active cells like cambium. But only in dicotyledonous plant, you have the active cells like cambium who helps to grow the tissues inside the stems of the dicotyledonous plant. Are you clear with that? Got the idea? Right. Twig grafting is over. Now we have to go with the bud grafting. Okay. So we have to go with the bud grafting. So that's the reason we say we don't use monocotyledonous plant to do the grafting. Okay. So when you talk about the bud grafting, now think I said to you, grafting is not easy. Grafting is not easy. In case if the cambium is not connected with the scion, can you have a growth from that? Means this plant will be completely died. Now think, if you are not a person who is experienced and if you are going to do the grafting, now you make sure that the cambium should have contact with the scion. If the cambium is microscopic, you can't see the cell. But if the cambium is, if they are in contact with the scion only, there will be a successful grafting. But if not, the successful grafting will not take place. This plant will die. It will die because you already cut that plant. There is no growth anymore. So that will die. So die. Think about bud grafting. So when you come to the bud grafting, listen to me. If you take the plant stem, now say who is going to act as a stalk? Your plant stem is going to act as a stalk. Now, say you take the plant in the bud grafting, you are not going to cut the tree like I said in the twig grafting. In the twig grafting, only we cut it completely. But in the bud grafting, we are not cutting the tree completely. First, we will be testing the tree. First, we will be testing the tree whether cambium is supporting in grafting. So we will make sure in bud grafting whether cambium is supporting. So what is happening is in the center of the stem of the plant, we can cut in the shape of T shape. You can cut in the shape of H shape. You can cut in the shape of V shape. Any shape cut can be given in the center of the stem of the plant. So say I'm giving a V shape cut in the center of the stem of the plant, and in the center of that I am placing the bud. I am placing the bud. So this bud is going to be the scion, and the root system of my stem is going to be the stalk. So what am I doing? I am wrapping this with the polythene. I am giving some growth hormone. Let the plant grow for some days. So once I remove the polythene, if I see the bud has grown a little bit, that means my grafting is going to be successful because the cambium has been attached to the scion. So by doing this, I can confirm, yeah, grafting is going to be successful. I can cut off my tree. So once I cut off my tree, I will let my tree to grow as a new plant. So this is going to be the bud grafting. Now tell me, which grafting is better? They can ask in exam, is twig grafting is better or the bud grafting is better? Now think, in the twig grafting, you don't check, you don't check the tree, you just cut it off and you place it with the twig. You don't know whether it will be successful or not. But in the bud grafting, first you are testing whether it's working or not. If it is working, you will cut it off and you will let it grow. If it is not working, you are going to take off the bud, you are going to let it grow with the other parts. The tree itself will repair itself. So when it repair itself, the plant will grow as it is. You don't kill the tree unnecessarily. So which means I would say you bud grafting is the best grafting. Got it? Understood? Right. So there is advantages and disadvantages of the grafting. So they can ask you exam, why are you doing grafting? Is one thing to obtain fruits with high quality characteristics, to get the fruits within short period of time. Now, what can you say about the root system and the shoot system? It should be free from the pest and everything. So this is about what? Artificial asexual reproduction. Now think, if I don't do the grafting properly, I'm killing the tree. It's very sinful thing. So what is the disadvantage of the grafting? Now you know that if the grafting is not successful, what will happen? The quality of the plant, wood, everything will be reduced. Now say for example, if a tree is living for 100 years, let's say if a tree is living for 100 years, but if you do grafting for that tree, it will only live for how many years? It will only live for 10 years. See, the lifespan can be reduced. So that is a disadvantage in what? In grafting. Are you clear with that? Clear with that? So we are done with grafting. Are you clear with that? Yes? Yes. Okay, I saw a question, but I could not see it properly. I could not see it properly because it's just uh okay, if you have sent me any questions, you can repeat it back again. Right. Yeah. So what has happened is you need to understand. So this is going to be what? Twig and the bud grafting. So simply if I wanted to say, grafting means if you wanted to produce a high quality fruit, and if you wanted to change, so if you wanted to change what? If you wanted to change the plants, if you wanted to change them, how to identify the presence of cambium? Dicotyledonous plant usually have cambium, and those experienced people, they have a way to find it. But for now we don't need that because we are just focusing on our exams to do that. Because if I try to explain you each and everything detail, we won't be moving to the next part. Okay. Okay, in the both twig and the bud grafting, do we see cambium cells available? Yes, they see. They know this is the area, the cambium would be appearing. So those experienced people, they know that it's microscopic, but they know. Like, your mother can cook without a measurement. Same like that, the experienced people can do that. Yes. Okay, right. Shall we move to the tissue culture? We don't need to have a simple definition for which one. I mean, like, what kind of definition you want. It will be over by maybe 11. Yeah. Advantages and disadvantages. The characteristics of the stockension is about Yusuf. You have to know the root system has to be strong. Shoot system should not be with the tender leaf. No fruits, no pests, no diseases. I already explained the characteristics while I'm explaining you the story. They won't in exam. They won't be specializedly. They won't ask you give two characteristics, but they can ask you a give a characteristic. They can ask you, so you can write it by yourself. Okay, advantages is what you can get short period of time. You can get high quality fruits and everything. And disadvantage, the lifespan can be reduced. So these things can be written. Okay, right. What is the next part? Yeah, so we are going to move with the tissue culture. So shall we move the tissue culture? Yes. Shall we move with that? Okay. So if we are moving with the, will they question about the process of grafting? Never. They won't be asking you the process of grafting, but they can give you the picture of a grafting. What kind of grafting is this? They can ask you, name another type of grafting which is similar to this. And they can ask you the advantage of grafting. They can ask you disadvantage of grafting. And they can ask you name the parts of the grafting, scion, stock. That's it. They will ask you that part only. Only those things has come to your exams in your term papers and everything most of the time. We will be getting this question in MCQs very rarely. Very rarely. You don't get this. Most of the time you don't get, but because they have diagrams. Just remember, if you have any lessons with diagrams, they do not much appear in MCQs. But sometimes the lessons like tissues, lessons like animal tissue, plant tissue can appear. But like main lessons like unit 14, 13, they don't give the main parts in the MCQ. They will make you to write it. Did you understand? Simple things like about fungi, bacteria, those things they can put it in the MCQ. Remember, MCQ is something that they will give you that is not important. But in structured essay type question, they will give you the questions that they want you to test you to write it. So understand the difference. Clear? Okay, right. Now we are going to do about the tissue culture. So we are going to study about the tissue culture. So I think like 2-3 years back, they haven't given any questions related to the tissue culture. They might give you, but I could remember they had given about layering, about things. So we can go with the tissue culture. Okay, listen to me. What is tissue culture? So tissue culture. Look at the word culture. Culture means we are using a culture medium. So in tissue culture, we are artificially going to produce plants, not one plant, number of plants inside a small place. So tissue culture means what? You are going to produce plants in a very small place that is also very high in number of plants. High number of plants with a controlled environment. You are producing plants. Like we say, if you go to the what do you say, newer areas, strawberry factories, but they have only specified area only to grow the strawberries inside a covered place, something like that. Only tissue culture, but tissue culture is little different. I'll tell you how this is working. Okay, so in tissue culture they are using vegetative parts of the plant. Okay, do you know what is vegetative parts of the plant? If you don't know what is vegetative parts of the plant, I will tell you. Listen to me. To do the tissue culture, they are using the vegetative parts of the plant. Especially vegetative parts of the plant means root, shoot, stem, branch. These we call it as what? Vegetative parts of the plant. We can say even vegetable, or we can even take the fruits, anything. So here what are we doing is we are taking the tissue from the vegetative part of the plant in a culture medium to do the process of growing plants in a shorter period of time, in a limited space, also with a controlled environment. We call this as what? Tissue culture. So you are using culture medium. What are you doing? You are using culture media to produce plants in high number. So listen to me. So tissue culture, here we are using culture medium. We are using agar. What are we using? We are using agar. That means we used to use the soil, right? Instead of the soil, we are using agar to grow the plant. So how can this happen? So this is also inside your lab. You're going to grow it inside your lab, not in a garden or not in a place. So what are you doing? You're making the plants to grow in high number. We call it as what? Tissue culture. Okay, listen to me carefully. Have you come across with the word greenhouses? Greenhouses where they plant large number of plants in a particular lab. In here also we call it as tissue culture. So to do the tissue culture, we are using agar instead of the soil. So let's say for example, what are you doing is, let's say you are taking a carrot. Now this is a vegetative part of the plant. A vegetable is a vegetative part of the plant. So what are you doing? You are taking a carrot. So from the carrot, you are taking a piece of tissue. Now you can ask me, okay, teacher, how do we know it's a tissue? Yes. So if you take a plant, if you take a small piece of that, that is going to be the tissue of that plant. That's going to be the tissue of the plant. So what are you doing? You are taking a carrot, you're taking a small part of the carrot, which is going to be the tissue of that carrot. So what are you doing? In a petri dish. In a petri dish, you are going to add agar. What are you going to add? You are going to agar. In that agar, you are adding growth hormone, some nutrition, some things that will make the plant to grow artificially. You are adding artificially. So what are you doing? You are placing the piece of what? You are placing the pieces of like you are taking one piece, two piece, three piece, small pieces of the carrot, and you are placing, let's say you are going to place around five. So now what is the first thing you need to provide for the plant, especially water, minerals, vitamins? Same like that. Sorry. Same like that. What are you doing? You are providing water, minerals, vitamins to this carrot which is in the agar. You are supplying to the agar. So especially what are you doing? The food in the plant that is present is what? It is present in the form of what? Sucrose. So what are you doing? You are adding more sucrose to the agar and also growth hormone. Then only these tissues will started to grow. They will started to grow. So now what is happening? You are adding all the factors that is needed to make the plant to grow, make the tissue to grow in a liquid form. So now what is happening? You are letting this what? You are letting this tissue to grow for some days. So the step one is you take a culture medium, you insert the carrot from that and you put it in the agar. In the agar you are adding all the factors that is needed to grow the tissue. You are adding all of them. So what are you doing? You are keeping this petri dish in a warm place. After you keep it in the warm place, after some days, after some time, you see the tissue started to grow. Now say you put some tissues. Tissue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tissues are there. And you see that the tissue started to grow with the roots and the shoots. You see that the tissue started to grow with the roots and the shoots. So the roots and the shoots that is appeared from the tissues, we call it as callus. What do we call this as? We call these as callus. So what are you doing? You are letting the callus to grow. What are you doing? You are letting the callus to grow. So you see the small root and the shoot will be arise from the tissue. So now what are you doing? What are you doing? Now you are separating. What are you doing? You are separating all the what do you say? You are separating everything. You're separating this, you're taking this callus from the agar, and what are you doing? You are going to place it in a, let's say for example, you are placing it in a place, let's say in a bucket, you are filling it with the soil. In a bucket, you are filling it with the soil. So what are you doing? You are adding all the planters into the soil, and you are letting them grow. What are you doing? You are letting them grow. So once this carrot tissue started to grow, you will see a new carrot here, new carrot here, new carrot here. All these carrot will look same. Now say for example, this is me. Okay, this is me. Now what am I doing is I'm scanning myself, and I'm creating a person exactly like me. So we call this as clone, right? We call this as clone. I think everyone knows the word clone. Same like that, in the tissue culture, you are creating number of plants using one plant with the tissue, that you call it as clone. We call this plant as what? We call them as clone. So we call these clone, and the method you form the clones, we call it as the tissue culture. Clear with that? Can you do this with the human? You can't do this. But can you do this with the vegetables and fruits? Yes, you can do. So what is the advantage of the tissue culture is you can produce the fruits or the vegetables in a short period of time. Think, you are taking a piece of a carrot and you are creating millions of plants. Do you need large space? No. So these plants, everyone will be similar to the mother plant, exactly like a photocopy. So we call these as what? Clone. So remember, always remember that you have to understand how important is the tissue culture to know. Okay. So but you can't do the tissue culture with the human. Any doubts in the tissue culture? Any doubts in the tissue culture? Tissue culture is over. They can ask you the word callus. Okay. Callus means the tissue that will come up with the roots and the shoots. Yeah, it's healthy. Nowadays we eat those things only. Everything is comes out of the lab. But if you have a own garden, then you don't have to have the fruits or the vegetables that is artificially reproduced. You can have the natural ones. Natural ones taste different, but the artificial ones, you won't have a taste. You see, I bought a mango very recently, but the mango looks very beautiful. It looks very big, fleshy, looks colorful. When I eat, it was like water. Why? It's not naturally happen. It was artificial. So the things that is done artificially won't will be looking good, but not the taste as you could expect. Did you understand? So callus means, I am saying again, the shoot and the root that is arise from the tissues that you let them to grow in the agar medium, the culture medium. So that is, we call it as tissues, right? Now, shall we talk about the sexual reproduction of plants? Now, asexual reproduction of plants, it's all over. Yeah, yeah, this will be saved in the YouTube. You can view anytime you want. But yeah, Agar Sanja, I don't know what you have called in. I think you know it's Sanja in Tamil as well as in Sinhala. I don't know, but we say Agar. But most of the time I say Sanja only. Yeah. Okay, right. I think you also eat that the seagrass, right? Okay, right. Now we are going to study about the. Before I go to the next part, I have to ask you something. Okay? Can you tell me? Can you know this about? Do you know to differentiate the monoecious plant, dioecious plant, unisexual flower, bisexual flower? Do you know to differentiate them? Because I am thinking whether should I teach that or know that. Do you know to differentiate? No. Okay, you have a doubt with that. I have to clear that. Okay, right. Okay, listen to me. I'm gonna clear you a doubt. Okay, I'm gonna clear your doubt. So now already you have studied about pollination, right? You have studied about pollination. So you know what is pollination, right? Pollination means if you have the pollen grain from the anther, if you are passing to the stigma of the female part of the flower, we say gynoecium. Then if that is being transferred, pollen grain from the male to the female, we call it as pollination. If I take the pollination, we know there are two types of pollination. One,
we call it as the self pollination. Other one we call it as the cross pollination. So if I take this self pollination, what do you mean by self pollination? If the pollen grain is being transferred to the same flower, that means, say if you take a flower, if this flower is transferring the pollen grain to the same flower, we call this as self pollination. Okay, the if I take the cross pollination, let's say this is a flower and let's say this is also a flower. So if the pollination is happening between two flowers, we call it as cross pollination. So most of the time we know cross pollination is better than self pollination. If I say this flower is a red flower, if I say this is as a red flower, the following reproduction is what? The baby flower also will be a red flower. But if I take the cross pollination, if I say this as a red flower, if I take this as a white flower, when two different flowers take place with the cross pollination, they can also produce a new variety of the flower as a pink flower. They can also produce red flower, white flower, also a extra variety of a flower, that is pink flower. So which means they can ask you in exam which pollination is better. You have to say cross pollination. Why? You can have varieties of offsprings. Varieties of offsprings, because of that cross pollination is important. Okay, but now what you have to study is, you have the types of flower: unisexual flower, bisexual flower, you have monoecious plant, dioecious plant, and all of them. Now, as I told you, I was teaching you about the sexual reproduction of flower, right? So if I take the sexual reproduction of the flower, the sex organ of the plant is the flower. Remember, the sex organ of the plant is the flower. So that means if the flower exchange the pollen, they will become a fruit. If they become a fruit, they will produce seeds. From the seeds, if the seed is getting dispersed to one place to another place, let's say by explosion, by wind, by water, if they get explode, then you will form a new tree, that you will form a new tree from that seed. No, so this is only we call it as sexual reproduction in simple way. In simple way, we say what? Sexual reproduction, the main organ to do the sexual reproduction is the flower. They become fruit, they become seed, the seed only will create a new plant. So that is the shortest way we could remember the sexual reproduction of plant, right? Now come to the main part. So if we are talking about the sexual reproduction of the plant, let's say if we are talking about the plant, I mean the flowers in detail, you have to remember this carefully. Okay, so you have a flower, we call it as unisexual flower. What do we call this as? We call this as unisexual flower. Other one, we call it as bisexual flower. So there are two types of flower. One is unisexual flower. Other one we call it as what? Bisexual flower. Another type of tree. There are two types of tree. One we call it as monoecious plant. Other one we call it as dioecious plant. So these are the key things that used to come into your what? Into your exams, like especially in your MCQs. It usually appear in your MCQs. So what is unisexual flower means? If you have a flower, if you have a flower, if this flower is only a female flower, if this flower is only a female flower, or if it is only a male flower, we call this as unisexual flower. If it is only male flower or a female flower, we call it as what? Unisexual flower. So if a flower is only female, we call it as what? Pistillate flower. What do we call them as? We call it as what? Pistillate flower. If a flower is only having the male parts, that we call it as staminate flower. What do we call it as? We call it as staminate flower. Then if I take the bisexual flower, what do you mean by bisexual flower? Bi means what? What do you mean by bi? Bi means if the both the male and the female is in the one flower, we call it as bisexual flower, especially shoe flower. Shoe flower is a bisexual flower. Clear with that? Got the idea? Right. So what is monoecious plant? And what is dioecious plant? So listen to me. Monoecious plant means, now mono, look at the word mono. You already know mono means one. If one plant, let's say, if one plant can produce fruit by itself, that means, say for example, if you have one plant, if this plant, one plant, if they can produce fruit by itself, we can call it as what? Monoecious plant. So if I take the monoecious plant, in the monoecious plant, if you have the both male and female, both the flowers in the one plant, we call it as what? We call it as monoecious plant. So that means in the monoecious plant, you have to remember it's going to have both the male and the female flower. That means you will have fully female flower, you will have the fully male flower together. That we call it as monoecious plant. Now you might be thinking monoecious plant can be equal to the bisexual flower. Bisexual flower, in one flower you have two people, but here monoecious plant means you will have the both the male and the female separately in one plant. That is, we call it as what? Monoecious plant. Dioecious plant means what? Dioecious plant means you have the male and the female. Okay, so you have the male and the female part of the flower here. Okay, I just missed it. So monoecious plant means you have the male and the female, you have the male and the female in the same flower, but in one tree. That you call it as what? Monoecious plant. Dioecious plant means in this plant you have the male part of the flower, female part of the flower is separated. That is, we call it as what? Dioecious plant. Any doubts in that? Any doubts in that? Yes. Any doubts in that part? Any doubts? Yes. Any doubts in that? Right. Okay. No doubts. Right. Okay. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Um. Okay. Someone is asking me. Monoecious plant. Monoecious plant mean if you have a plant with flowers, that flower is both female, male and the female organs are in the same flower, that we call it as monoecious plant. Dioecious plant means if you have a plant with separate male flower, separate female flower in that plant, we call it as dioecious plant. Okay, right. Give me a minute. Hold on. Okay, thank you for waiting. Yeah. So what is happening is, so that is, we call it as monoecious plant, and other one we call it as what? Dioecious plant, right? Now you have to think carefully. Now I said to you, cross pollination is better than the self pollination right now. Say for example, if you have a bisexual flower, if you have a bisexual flower, in that flower you will have the both the male and the female, right? That means in case if the self pollination take place, that's a bad thing for the plants because they won't get any new varieties. To prevent, to prevent self pollination, this one they will ask in exam. In your O levels they can ask you, to prevent self pollination, they will be undergoing 5 characteristics. So, what do you need to understand? To prevent the self pollination, these flowers will undergo what? These flowers will undergo 5 adaptations. We call it as what? They will undergo 5 adaptations. So these adaptations I will be explaining you in detail so you will understand. So listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully, okay? So the adaptation number 1 is the plant will make sure they will be always unisexual flower. So that means if a plant, if they don't want to have a self pollination, the first adaptation that they will make themselves the flowers to be unisexual. So unisexual means what? It can be either male or the female. So whenever if they wanted to, what do you say, if they wanted to do the pollination, it will be always cross pollination, because unisexual flowers, we should have the cross pollination. The second point that you have to remember is self sterility. Let me explain you what is self sterility. So self sterility means, what do you mean the word sterile? What do you mean by the word sterile? So sterile means they can't produce. Like, say for example, I think you have heard about people now, newly married couples. If you take the newly married couples, and if they don't reproduce within 2 3 years, and if that person is unable to reproduce, that means they have a problem in their self life. They have a problem. So that means they can't produce a baby, or they can't produce sperm, or either that person is having a problem with their ovum. So because of that, they can't produce a baby. So that is, we call it as sterile. We call it as sterile. So same like that, if you have any flower, let's say if you have a bisexual flower, if you have a bisexual flower, if that flower, if that flower is doing, if it is adapted with the characteristic, we call it as self sterility, means even though, let's say in the bisexual flower there will be a male, there will be a male, and there will be a female. So if the male pass the that means if the pollen grain is passed from the male to the female in the same flower, still this flower will not reproduce as a fruit, because they have the ability to self sterile. That means self sterile means the adaptation that is made by the plant, even though if the same flower do the pollination, they won't be able to reproduce. So that is, we call it as what? We call it as the self sterility. Are you clear with the self sterility? Yes, clear with the self sterility? Yes, got the idea? Any doubts? Okay, so they are asking why are they doing, okay, so they are asking why are they doing the self sterility. Now if you think the main reason to do the self sterility, to be unisexual, is because they don't want to produce the same flower. Now say if you have a flower which is red color, and if they do the self pollination, okay, yeah. So if they have the if they do the self pollination, what will happen? They will only produce the flower again, which is red color. That means there is no variety. So since they don't want to have the self pollination, they are having these adaptations. Now think, I want to look more beautiful. So what I will do? I will adapt myself to not to eat junk. I will try to care about myself a lot. So same like that, the plant also will adapt, have some adaptations to make themselves prevent from the self pollination. That's the reason they are having the self sterility. They are trying to be unisexual flowers. So self sterility means what? If the flower, now say in case by mistakenly the plant has produced a bisexual flower, that means a flower with male and female. So let's say what is happening. If the male transfer the pollen grain to the female of the same flower, still they will not be as a fruit. They will not turn as a fruit, because they have made an adaptation as self-sterile. Did you understand? Clear with that? Come to the third one. Third one is hercogamy. I think you have heard about it. I think sometimes some people has not heard about that. Hercogamy means, now let's say you have the shoe flower, right? Let me say you this. Now if you take the shoe flower, let's imagine if you take the shoe flower. Okay, let's take the shoe flower. If I take the shoe flower, in the shoe flower, you have the style, right? You have the style, you have the style. Let's say this part of the shoe flower, we call it as the style, and this one we call it as the stigma. Okay, we have the stigma, and then they will be having like a kind of this, we call these as ovules and ovary. Now closer to the stigma and the style, you will see a yellow color like a bird. We call it as what? We call it as anther, and we call it as filament. We call it as anther and filament. So who is the main person to do the sexual reproduction here? If the anther, if the anther only will have the pollen grain. If the anther is transferring the pollen grain to the stigma only, the pollen grain will be enter into the where? To the ovules. So if they enter to the ovules only, it will turn into fruit. It will turn into fruit. So now what you have to understand is, listen to me. Now what you have to understand is, if the stigma is away from the anther, if the stigma is away from the anther, is that possible that the pollen grain can enter to the stigma? Now say for example, I'll tell you a best example. Okay, I'll tell you a best example. Now say is there is a girl, they are married couple, there is a girl in this house and there is a boy in this house. Okay, these two people are separate, they are living separate in their different houses. Will they produce baby? Will they produce baby? That means if they are away from each other, will they produce baby? No. Same like that, the plant also making an adaptation where the stigma will be away from the anther. Stigma will be what? They will be away from the anther. So when the stigma and the anther is away like this, is there any chances, is there any possibility that the pollination, self pollination can be taken place? No. So that is what we call it as what? Hercogamy. Are you clear with the hercogamy? Yes. Are you clear with the hercogamy? Yes. Got the idea? So if they are away from each other, we call it as what? Hercogamy. Any doubts in the hercogamy? Yes. Any doubts? Okay, right. The fourth adaptation, let me raise it out. Just remember, don't need to buy hard anything. Just understand, that's enough. You can write it in your exam clearly. Okay, listen. Fourth one is, we call it as extrostamen. So extrostamen means what? What do you mean by extrostamen? Now say you have the bisexual flower. In the flower, okay, let's say for example, you have the bisexual flower. In the stigma, let's say if the stigma is bent like this, let's say the stigma is bent like this, the stigma is bent, and the anther is straight like this, anther is straight like this. So this is going to be the anther and this is going to be the stigma. So if you take the stigma and the anther, so one person is bent, other person is straight. So if either one of them is bent or the straight, is there any chance that the pollen grain can enter? Now think, do you think the pollen grain can go like this like us? Can they go like this, like take a U-turn and go get into the stigma? No, they will always go straight, they will always move straight. So which means the high possibility, that means do they have high possibility of getting that means reproducing, getting pollinated? Do they have high chance? No, they have very less chance of getting pollinated, because the stamen, one stamen can be straight, or in another flower stamen can be bent, the stigma can be straight. So either one of the situation can make them from what? Self, that means prevent from the self pollination. So this is one of the adaptation, right? Next one is, the next adaptation is dichogamy. We call it as what? Dichogamy. So if you take the dichogamy is something, I would say you, let's say for example, I am using these examples to make you understand, nothing serious. Okay, you should not take anything serious, nothing serious, you have to understand. Okay, let's say for example, there is a boy, okay, who is 20 years old boy. Okay, and there's a girl who is 5 years old girl. Now if a 20 years boy get married to the 5 years old girl, will they be able to reproduce? No. That means the girl here is immature. She is immature. She has not undergone any sexual characteristic. But here the boy is a matured guy. So that means if a matured and immatured, if they combine together, can they reproduce? Can't. Same like that. The opposite goes. If a girl is 20 years, if the boy is 5 years, can they get married again? Can they reproduce? Can't. Same like that. If you have a bisexual flower, if you have the bisexual flower, either the stigma, what can you say? Either the stigma will be immatured or the anther will be immatured. One person will be matured, other person will be immatured. So this situation we call it as what? We call it as dichogamy situation. So that means the both of the people are opposite to each other. Got it? Understood? Got the idea? Any doubts? Any doubts? Examples like what? The examples I told you here? No examples. They won't ask you any examples. They will ask you to write the adaptations. You can just write the adaptation by words. That's enough. Right. Okay, look here. Next one. Sometimes, very rarely, like 1%, they can ask you some examples. You can remember them if you want in your textbooks. You can remember, but I don't say you wanted to remember 100%. Not that important, right? Okay, listen to me now. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very carefully. Now say, let's say the fertilization. I forgot to tell you this fertilization part. After that, we'll go to the male reproductive system. Okay, after that we'll go to the male reproductive system. So listen to me. Now let's talk about the fertilization. Now say what happened is, now the pollen grain is there, right? The pollen grain. If the pollen grain has entered to the ovum, if that has been entered to the ovum, we call these as fertilization. When a pollen grain and a ovum combine together, we call these as fertilization. So what is happening is, let me take this. Now say this is going to be the ovary, right? Let's say this is going to be the ovary in a flower. This is going to be the ovary. In the center of the ovary only, you will have the ovules. That means the ovule only should connect with the pollen grain. We call it as what? Ovule. Now what will happen? If a flower, if they undergo what? Pollination, they will be turning into fruit. In exam, they can ask you which part of the flower can turn into which part of the fruit. So if you take the whole of ovary, if you take the wall of ovary, the wall of ovary will become the pericarp. Now say if this is a mango, you cut into half, the pericarp, it will become the pericarp of the mango, or a fruit, it will become the pericarp. If you take the ovary, let's say if you take the ovary, ovary will become the flesh of the fruit. It will become what? It will become the flesh of the fruit. If you take the wall of ovule, if you take the wall of ovule, the wall of ovule will become the what? Seed coat. It will become the seed coat of the fruit. It will become what? It will become the seed coat of the fruit. It will become the seed coat of the fruit. Which one? Wall of ovary. Then if I take the ovule, ovule will become the seed of the fruit. It will become what? It will become the seed of the fruit. So this one you have to remember. When the fertilization has been taken place, which part of the flower turning into which part of the fruit, you have to remember. Any doubts? Any doubts? Any doubts here? Yes. Any doubts? Any doubts? Okay, right. Okay, I already told you you have a part 2 session in biology. Yeah, I will explain you one more time. Listen to me, give me a minute. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I will be providing the recording. Yeah, look here. So what is happening is, if you take the flower,
Dioecious plant and unisexual plant. No, 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 no. Plant is different from unisexual flower. Unisexual flower, they have, it's like this. If you take the unisexual flower, you have separate male flowers and separate female flowers, right? But if you take the dioecious plant, these two flowers in one plant only, we call it as dioecious plant. Did you understand? Like kind of a little connection, but not exactly what I mean. Okay, so right, look here. So what is happening? If you take the, let's say, if you take the ovary, what is happening in the flower? Wall of ovary. What will happen? Wall of ovary will become the pericarp. It will become the pericarp. Pericarp is the peel, you peel it off. That is the pericarp. So it will become the pericarp. Then if you take the ovary, it will become the flesh. It will become the flesh of the fruit. If you take the wall of ovule, it will become what? It will become the seed coat of the what? It will become the seed coat of the fruit. And if you take the ovule, ovule will become the seed of the plant. So this is the difference you have to remember once the fertilization had been taken place. Right. So listen to me. Now, what is happening is you have to know about the agents of pollination. What are the agents of pollination? Just remember, by animals, by winds, by plants, sorry, by water. Animals, winds, by water. We call it as what? The agents of pollination. In this lesson, only these parts are important. If you want, I will be teaching the agents of pollination in later times, but this is what we expect a lot in our exam. So because of that, whatever the things that is important in unit 14 we have completed, but in this part I will be teaching about male reproductive system. Sometimes you might get the male reproductive system but not as a diagram. Sometimes they can give you as a, what do you say, as a MCQ. So because of that, you will be getting a idea about the male reproductive system. I will end it by 11. I will be ending the session by 11. Just now, you know, right? Even I also have so much things to be done. I will be ending by 11. Don't worry. I told you we have another session. That will be by December, the first week of December. We have the session. I will update you the date. I'll keep posting the date to you. Don't worry. You shouldn't leave the group. If you leave the group, you will miss out the session. You will, because you have to be getting all the details of the lesson in detail, so because of that you have to be in the group, right? Simply agents of pollination is about, like, what do you say? So why animals? Why do they get attracted to the flowers? Flowers are colorful, big size petals. They have nectaries. Because of that, these animals, they like insects. They help in pollination. So that is we call it as agents of pollination. Then by wind, that means the seed, the pollen grain has to be lightweight. Then the stigma has to be sticky, then we can say it has to be in the apex, it has to be placed in the apex of the plant, then only the wind pollination can be taken place. Water pollination means what? If the pollen are like porous, which can be carried away by water, it can be fibrous, then we can say it is also one characteristic of what? Agents of water pollination. So you have to just to know what are the characteristics that the pollen grain should possess, the stigma has to possess, why the air is helping, why the wind is, sorry, why the water is helping, why the animal is helping in pollination. You should give the exact adaptations. So that is how you remember, right? Okay, so right now we'll talk about, yes, so we are going to talk about the male reproductive system. I will tell you very short, you have to understand it clearly. Now, when you take the male reproductive system, the main part of the male reproductive system is the oval part. Like we have the oval part, we call it as what? We call inside this oval part, we call this part as scrotum. The outer part of the male reproductive system, we call it as scrotum. Inside the scrotum only you find
This you call it as testes. You call it as what? Testes. So a man will have a pair of testes. So this is the main part of the male reproductive system. So testes is in oval shape, and this is the main part of the male reproductive system. So the only organ that is out, the only part of the human body that is placed out of the body of a human is the testes. The reason is because testes is responsible in what? Testes is responsible in production of what? Sperm production. It is responsible in what? Sperm production. So since it is responsible in sperm production to produce sperm, now what is our body temperature? It's 37 degrees Celsius, right? So if the body temperature of us is very high, now have you heard they say the boys should not keep their laptops on their laps? They say you should not keep the phone in your pockets. You should not bath in a hot water. What is the reason? The sperm production can be blocked due to the heat. So that means if the only place in the human body where the body temperature is very less than 1 degree Celsius is in the scrotum. Why? The testes needs to be cool in order to produce what? In order to produce the sperm. So that means in the testes the temperature will be around 35 degrees Celsius to 36 degrees Celsius, that is less than the body temperature. That will help them to produce what? That will help them to produce the sperm. So when you take the sperm, we have to study where is this sperm is produced, how it is produced, right? So now what is happening is, so some male, this testis is there, right? So let's say if your mother is pregnant and she is having your brother, okay, she is having your brother in her womb. Now say for example, if a baby boy, if the baby boy born between 7 to 8 months, there is a high chance the baby can born without testes. It can be born without testes because testes can be grown between the months of 8 to 9. So there is a high chance if the baby born between the 7 to 8 months that the baby will not have the testes. So what they will do, the doctors will keep the baby in the incubator and they will not let the mother to touch because they will let the testes to grow. Sometimes the people, there are boys who live without the testes, they only have the scrotum but they have no ability to reproduce. Why? Testis is the one who gives the sperm. So if there is no sperm in, if there is no testes, there will be no sperm. So there are people without testes also, and I have faced so much of cases like this because when we go to the labs in our university, they take to certain places to explore us and see. So these things are happening. So that means there are people without testes. So there are people without testes only with the scrotum. Yes, they have the organ, they can urinate, but they can't produce the sperm. So there are people like that also. But remember, if the baby boy born between the 7 to 8 months, there is a high chance they will not have the testes. There is a less chance they will have the testes. It depends on that. So let's talk about the testes in detail. So when I take the testes, okay, if I take the testes, the cross section of the testes, if you take the male cross section of the testes, what is happening is you will be having cross section means you cut the testes into two, and if you take the testes, you will see several compartments in the testes like that. We call these compartments, like we say rooms. We say compartment 1, compartment 2, like that. So if you take the male testes, they also have division sections inside the testes. We call those compartments as testicle lobules. What do we call that as? We call it as testicle lobules. So if you take the testicle lobules, around 250 testicle lobules is present in what? In a male testes. So when you take the testes, they also will have a structure like this, like this. So this is how the cross section of the testes would look like, and it will be like this kind of a section in this way. So this is how you will be able to see. So now what is happening if you cut this? Now what is happening is inside the testicle lobules, you will have a like a tube. you will have like a tube. So that tube we call it as seminiferous tubule. We call it as what? We call it as seminiferous tubule. So this seminiferous tubule, if you look through the microscope, in the seminiferous tubule, you have two types of cells in the seminiferous tubule. So one cell, we call it as the sperm mother cell. What do we call it as? We call it as what? Sperm mother cell. Another type of cell that you find inside this tubule, you call it as Sertoli cell. What do we call it as? What are the two cells we have? One we have the sperm mother cell. Other one we have the Sertoli cell. So if you take the seminiferous tubule will look like this. So if you cut it, you don't want to know the structure, but I'm just drawing it to make sure you understand. So this is going to be the sperm mother cell. So let's say the sperm mother cell, the main function to produce sperm. What will this Sertoli cell will do? Sertoli cell, they provide space, they provide nutrition, they give some what do you say? What yeah, nutrition and all of them to the sperm to grow. So that is the main function of the Sertoli cell. So this seminiferous tubule is connected with another cell. We call it as Leydig cell. We call it as what? Leydig cell. Now what is this Leydig cell is doing is the Leydig cell is responsible in producing the hormone. We call it as testosterone. So you know the hormone that helps in secondary sexual growth, that helps in the production of sperm, that is testosterone. So where can you find the testosterone? The testosterone is attached to where? To the Leydig cell. So this Leydig cell is attached to the seminiferous tubule in order to produce what? The what do you say? In order to produce what? In order to produce the testosterone. So if the testosterone is activated, only the sperm will produce. Did you understand? So now what is happening? Let me draw the male reproductive system. So if you draw the male reproductive system, what is happening is, now let's say if this is the male reproductive system, this is the scrotum, and this is where you have the testes. Let's say this is the testes. So in the testes only, we produce what? We produce the sperm. So once the sperm is produced, it will be sent to the tube. We call the tube as what? We call that tube as vas efferents. We call it as what? Vas afferents. So first, once the sperm is produced, it will go to the tube. We call it as what? Vas afferents. Now, this vas afferents, what will it do is, it is the one who is collecting. He is the one who is collecting the sperm that is produced by the testes. So, what will happen? All the matured sperm from the vas afferents, it will go to the place called epididymis. It will go to the place called what? Epididymis. So, epididymis is the part who will store the sperm, who will store the sperm. So that means when the sperm is about to release, if the sperm is about to release, before the releasing, the epididymis is the one who will collect and store all the matured sperm in the place called epididymis. Understood? Now say there is a situation that the sperm has to be released from the male reproductive system. Now what will happen? Now during copulation. So copulation means what? When a male and a female having a sexual relationship, what will happen? At that time when the male is about to release the sperm, what will happen from the epididymis? What will happen? It will go to a tube. We call it as vas deferens. We call it as what? Vas deferens. So this vas deferens is connected to the gland. It is connected to the gland. How many gland it is connected? It is connected to the three glands. It is connected to three glands. So gland number one, it is connected to the seminal vesicle seminal vesicle gland. Other gland it is connected is what? prostate gland. It is connected to the prostate gland. The third one, it is connected to the Cooper's gland. So what are the three glands that the vas deferens is connected? It is connected to the seminal vesicle gland, prostate gland, and Cooper's gland. Did you understand? Did you understand? Did you get an idea? Yes. I'm just telling all these people's function in a way that you would understand. Yes. People don't have testes. Don't they go through secondary sexual characteristics? They don't. They don't. Now think about the transgenders, will you? Think about the transgenders. Think about the gays. If you think, you will understand. Why they, now, if they have the testosterone, no, they will feel that they are man. If they have the testosterone, they feel they are man. But if they are not, there's problem with them. That there's a problem. Did you understand? So there will be hormonal changes. Sometimes the testosterone will not be produced, but they can be produced a different hormones to make them a different kind of people. So it depends on that. Okay, right? Okay, listen. Now what is happening is, now you know this is the sperm, right? This is the sperm. So now this sperm needs a medium to travel. They have to travel to the female reproductive system to produce a baby, right? So that means if this sperm has to travel for a long distance, they need a medium, right? So this medium is produced by these three glands. So these three glands, they will combine together. They will be producing a liquid. We call it as semen, or you can call it as semen. So we say semen. So semen is a white color fluid that where the sperm will be mixing. So sperm will mix with the white color fluid. We call it as semen. So this semen is produced by these three glands. Clear? Got the idea? Understood? So semen is the one who will be helping the what do you say? It will be helping the, what do you say, it will be helping the sperm to travel to the female reproductive system. Now think, if the sperm is entering to the female reproductive system, if the sperm is inside the female reproductive system, it will be there for 72 hours. It will be there in the female reproductive system for about 72 hours, which means approximately 3 days. It will live for 3 days. How possible it can live? Because female reproductive system will produce nutrition to the sperm, like sucrose. It will produce to them sucrose, fructose, like that kind of a what do you say, nutrition will be produced to the sperm to live for about how many days? 3 days. So now what will happen? So this, from the vas deferens, all the semen mixed with the sperm, it will come out through the tube. We call it as urethra. Remember, urethra is a tube where the urine also will be passed through the same tube, where the sperm also will be, semen also will be passed through the same tube. So now what is happening? If the sperm is entering to the female reproductive system, say the ovum, remember, the ovum will be like a unboiled egg. It will be like a unboiled egg. You know, unboiled egg, like it will be like moving like that, like a jelly. We call it as unboiled egg. It will be like a unboiled egg. So once the sperm united, if the sperm united with the ovum, the unboiled egg will be turned as a oiled egg, boiled egg, which means it will be like a hard. It will become hard. So that's the reason we say only one sperm can enter into the ovum. Once sperm has been entered to the ovum will become hard like a shell. So can other sperm enter? Can the other sperm enter? They will knock and knock. Others all will die. So that is the male reproductive system. So I forgot to say, the head of the sperm only has the DNA of the father, like the skin color, hair color, everything. And for one ejaculation, the father will be ejaculating 7 million. That means for one ejaculation of the sperm, they will have 7 millions of the sperm. 7 millions of the sperm will be there inside the female reproductive system. Clear? Got the idea? Any doubts? Any doubts? I told you the functions of this, and you will know the parts also while I'm explaining you. And that's it about the male reproductive system. Any doubts under this? Any doubts? Ejaculation means releasing. When the sperm is getting released into the female reproductive system, around, like, what do you say? Around 7 millions of the sperm will be released. Around 7 millions of the sperm, right? Why some people gay and lesbian? It's because their hormonal changes. Due to the hormonal changes, they have the they don't have any feelings on opposite sex, while they have the same feelings on the same sex people. It's like they feel comfortable with the same gender. Yes. Yeah, the whole ovum will get hard at that time. Before that, before the sperm is entering, the ovum will be like very soft. It will be very soft, and it will be like unboiled egg. Yeah. Okay. The head of the sperm contain DNA. Yes, DNA of the father, which is 43 chromosomes. Sorry, not 43. It's going to be 23 chromosomes will be carried from the father. Okay, right. Great. Okay, listen to me. Listen to me carefully. Now we are done with the unit 14 and you have got an idea about the unit 14. I will give you a small heads up to the unit 13 about the kingdoms and about the domains and everything, and then we'll go with that, and I will update you a new date and the time for the second biology session you can join. Tomorrow we have the, I think we have the chemistry or physics. So I will have to prepare the sheets that is related to the physics and the chemistry also. So then you also will get an idea what are the lessons that you have to focus and what are the things you have to do. And there also we will get to know what are the things you will be learning. Okay. Right. Okay. Shall we move with the unit 13? Shall we move with the unit 13? Yeah. Any doubts? Because I don't see any messages. Yeah, the session will be until 11. Don't worry. Yeah, you have to sacrifice, okay? Okay, right, great. Okay, shall we move with the unit 13? Okay, so when you take the unit 13, you have classification of organism. So when you take the classification of organism, there are two types of classification of organism. One you call it as natural classification of organism. Other one you have artificial classification of organism. So when I take the natural classification of organism, you have to understand the natural classifications like by based on their geographical location, based on their habitats, you are dividing them into groups. But artificial classification means like you have learned in grade 6 dichotomous key, presence of horns, absence of horns, presence of legs, four legs, absence of four legs. So this is we call it as artificial classification. So you are going to learn how you are classifying an organism. So to classifying the organism, what are you doing is there is a hierarchy. There is a hierarchy that you classify the organism, and this hierarchy you have to remember in order. So how I'm going to make you to remember is I always remember in this order. Like we say Don, King, Philip. Don, King, Philip came out for a good soup. So Don, King Philip came out for a good soup. So this is the hierarchy you are dividing an organism. Say if you take the human, you divide the human by domain, by kingdom, by phylum, by class, by order, by family, by gene, by the species. So this Don is the domain. The first where we all getting classified is by domain. The second one, we are getting divided by the kingdom. We guys are getting divided by the kingdom. So how many domains we have? We have three domains. How many kingdoms do we have? We have four kingdoms. Then Philip stands for what? Phylum. Phylum chordata. That means are you a vertebrate or invertebrate? Then you are belonging whether you are mammal, whether you are mammal or whether you are ape, so that is class. Then you will come under the order. You will come under the order. Then you will come under the family, like we say you belong to the cat family, dog family, that is family. Then you say the gene. We all are what? Homo is our gene. So Homo is the gene. That means it comes under gene, genus. So that's going to be the gene. Then sup means what? Species. We are sapien. We all are belongs to what? Species. That is going to be the sapien. So this is how we are classifying order. This is going to be the classification order of an organism. Remember this in order. Remember, in this way it's easy for you to get classified. So now we are going to study about the domain. So what are the three types of domain we have? Domain archaea. You have domain archaea. You have the domain bacteria. Domain bacteria. And then you have the domain eukarya. You have the domain eukarya. So what do you have? You have the domain archaea, domain bacteria, domain eukarya. So if you take the domains, these domains are divided by the scientist. Remember the scientist name, Carl Woos. So Carl Woos is a scientist to introduce the domain. So if you take the domain, you say this domain, the only domain that will be divided into kingdoms is what? Domain eukarya. So domain eukarya will be divided into four kingdoms. It will get divided into how many kingdoms? It will get divided into four kingdoms. So kingdom number one, you have kingdom what? Fungi. So you have the kingdom fungi, you have the kingdom protista, you have the kingdom what? Animalia, and you have the kingdom plantae. So these all are very important. So that means you have to study the domain in detail. You have to study about the domain eukarya. Remember, domain archaea most of the time does not come to your exam because that's not going to be a big deal, because there is no more information about the domain archaea. Remember, domain bacteria and archaea will have the same characteristic. But the thing is, bacteria can be sensitive to the antibiotics, but the archaea is not sensitive. They live in an extreme environment like glaciers, lava, petrol. They live in those extreme environments. So that is why we say we are not going to talk about the archaea. You will learn that in your A levels later. But domain bacteria, you have to study about that in detail, and you have to study about the domain eukarya. Under that you have four kingdoms. You will study about that. So who introduced the kingdoms? Robert Whittaker. So the scientist Robert Whittaker is the one who divided the kingdoms. So shall we study about the domain bacteria very quick way? Yes, so let's study about the domain bacteria. So listen to me. When you take the domain bacteria, first let me introduce the characteristics of the domain bacteria. Okay, characteristics. First thing is, when you say the domain bacteria, they are prokaryotes. They are prokaryotes. Now you may think, okay, teacher, what is prokaryotes? Prokaryotes means if you have a cell without an organized nucleus, we call it as prokaryotes. If you have a cell with an organized nucleus, we call it as eukarya. So that means bacteria does not have a proper nucleus. That's what we say, they are prokaryotes. Most of the bacteria, they are unicellular and they are microscopic. You can't see the bacteria through your naked eyes. You have to use the microscope, which means we say them as what? Microscopic. So the only bacteria they can produce their own food is a cyanobacteria. So cyanobacteria is a green color bacteria. It is a autotrophic bacteria which can produce their own food. But other bacteria, they are not autotrophic, they are heterotrophic. Okay, they depend on someone and they are doing it. So when I take the bacteria, some bacteria is good, some bacteria is bad. So say bacteria cannot be present in our blood. Now think, if the bacteria is in our blood, that means we have a different problem. But the bacteria can be present in our stomach to do the digestion. So that means there is an advantage of bacteria bacteria, there is disadvantage of bacteria. So the advantage of bacteria is what? They can help us in decomposition, break down the dead plants and animals. And also it can be helpful for us what? It can be helpful for us to do the production of we can say it can help us in production of vinegar. Then it can help us producing a curd. And also it can be, now when we say bacteria, bacteria can be good at one time, it can be bad, especially it can do the food spoilage. So if you keep the food open for long period of time, bacteria can react, it can spoil your food. So the food spoilage can be happen by the bacteria. Some diseases can be caused by the bacteria. Like what do you say? Now, if I'm talking about bacteria, bacteria have lots of body shapes. Especially they have circle body shape. They have like this kind of a comma body shape. They have like a spiral body shape. They like have a rod body shape. So we call it as coccus. We call this as vibrio. We call this as spirilium. So you have spirilium, you have bacillus body shape. So when you say the coccus, coccus means they have a circle body shape. If they like look like a samosa, or if they look like a kama shape, we say vibrio. If they have a spiral shape, we call it as spiralium. If you have the bacillus, bacillus means the rod shape, we call it as what? Bacillus. So have you heard the bacteria name Lactobacillus bulgaricus? We are representing the shape of the bacteria. If I say streptococcus, I'm saying streptococcus means that bacteria is having a shape of circle shape. So they also have different body shape. And also they can helpful in what? Decomposition. If you take the bacteria, they can be sensitive to the antibiotics. You go to the doctor, you take medicine like antibiotics like what? Amoxicillin, tetracycline. So you take these medicines, why? To kill the bacteria. So that means you can say that bacteria is sensitive to the antibiotics, right? So when I say bacteria, they also have the reproduction method. They have three reproduction method. One method we call it as what? We call it as fragmentation. So fragmentation means, have you come across with the lizard? What will the lizard do? Lizard will break their tail, and you see after 1 month this lizard is having a new uh, tail. So which means fragmentation means if you take a bacteria, you cut the bacteria, it will become a new bacteria. Then you have the budding. Budding means what? If a bacteria is popping out their babies, we call it as bacteria budding. It's a one way of reproduction. They always have the asexual reproduction, special asexual reproduction. And also they can have the another type, we call it as budding, fragmentation. We also have to know about what? We also know about I could remember, I will remember that and tell you, okay? I will remember that and tell you. That is another one. That means if you take the bacteria, that bacteria can be divided equally into two shades. So we call that as I remember that. The word doesn't come to my mind, but anyways, I will tell you when I remember. So fragmentation, budding, are asexual reproductions of bacteria. Let's come to the fungi. Now we are entering to the what? Domain Eukarya. Under the domain Eukarya, you have the kingdom fungi. So if I take the kingdom fungi also, what do you say? They can be presented as unicellular fungi, as well as they can be presented as multicellular fungi. You can't see the unicellular fungi. When the fungi gets into collections multicellular only, you see it. That means, for example, have you heard about the disease called aluhum? Aluhum means, we say thermal in a body. So aluhum means what do you mean by aluhum? That means you see the person with a different discoloration in their body. So that means, how do you see? When millions of fungi combine together, only you see it through your naked eyes. But can you see a single fungi? You can't. The fungi is made up of a material, we call it as chitin. The cell wall of the fungi is made up of what? It is made up of chitin. If I say fungi, the only fungi, the reproductive part of the fungi that can be seen through your naked eyes is the mushroom. Mushroom is not the actual fungi, it's a reproductive part of the fungi. So that is going to be the Mushroom. If I take the mushroom, like it's good in protein, we call in scientific name as what? Agaricus. We call it as what? Agaricus. So when you talk about the fungi, now let's say if you talk about the fungi can have, like, most of the time you don't have any uses of fungi. The only uses you can say, they can produce mushroom, they can produce yeast, which can be used as a key ingredient for the bakery production. Like you wanted to produce bun and everything is done by the yeast. So yeast is going to be the unicellular part of the fungi, while you are taking the multicellular part of the fungi is the mucor that is produced in the bread. When you put the bread in water, you keep it for some days, it will turn into black color. We call it as the mucor. So when you say the fungi, that is also sensitive to the antibiotics. They also can be killed by antibiotics, especially like griseofulvin is the medicine that we take to break the fungi. Okay, so fungi also can be, it also can be reproduced by, it can be reproduced by asexual reproduction. Now I remember the word binary fission. So for the bacteria also can be produced by what? Binary fission. Binary fission means what? If you equally divide the fungi into two, there will be two new fungi. If you equally divide the bacteria, you will be divided into two new bacteria. So that is binary fission. Then you have the budding, spore production. Through this only you produce the fungi. Now come to the kingdom Protista. So if you come to the kingdom Protista, you have two types. Under the kingdom Protista, you have two types of organism. Okay, I'll stop from the kingdom Protista once we are done with that. So if you take the kingdom Protista, under the kingdom Protista, you have two types of organism. One type you call it as what? One type is protozoa. One type you have the protozoa. Other type you have what? Other type you have the algae. Now, if I take the protozoa, they are always unicellular. If you take the algae, it's always multicellular. Okay, so if I take the protozoa, what are the examples we can take under protozoa? We can take, they are heterotrophic. Remember, they are heterotrophic. They will only depend on other animals to get energy. Algae, they are always autotrophic. Why? They are considered as the prime, they are considered as what? Consumer. They are considered as the consumer in the food chain. So you see the first part of the aquatic environment food chain. Under that, the algae will be appearing first. It will be the main person to be consumed by other organisms. So if I take the heterotrophic, especially, what are the protozoa you can take? Amoeba. Amoeba can create amoebiasis disease. Then paramecium. Paramecium is a protozoa. It can create malaria disease. Then you have the euglena. What can the euglena do? Sleeping sickness. You always feel sleepy. You open the book, you feel sleepy. Why? You have the euglena in your body. So if the euglena is with you, always feel sick. That's very bad. You feel like sickening, sleeping. You don't want to see anything, so you feel like lazy at all. That's because of euglena. Okay, right, come to the algae. Algae is can be seen through our naked eyes, especially it's in green color. Usually we use the algae that is under the sea is agar. We say it as what? We call that as, we take this agar specially for what? To make ice cream. And then what else we can say? So algae can have a good relationship with the fungi. So algae having a good relationship with the fungi. So I will teach you about the symbiotic relationship. So there is something called symbiotic relationship. This relationship is important in your unit 11. Sorry, your unit 15 of your grade 11. You will study this again. So symbiotic relationship can be divided into three. One you call it as mutualism. One you call it as mutualism. Other one you call it as commensalism. Another one you call it as parasitism. So there are three relationship in an organism. Mutualism means, say for example, if there is two friends, if the both of the friends are being what? Benefited. Let's say you and your best friend is here, you are giving gift for your friend, he also giving a gift for you. So when both of them are having a good relationship without harming each other, we call this as mutualism. Other one we have the commensalism. Commensalism means if one person is getting benefited, other person is not gaining benefit as well as not gaining harm. That is we call it as commensalism. Parasitism means both. That means parasitism means one person will get the benefit, other person will not be getting benefit. Also, it will be harm. Think about a lion and a deer. Lion hunts the deer. That means deer is getting harm. Lion is eating the food, getting benefited. Think about the commensalism like this. Now, say you know hermit crab, right? If you take the crab, on top of the crab, sea anemone has been grown. That means sea anemone, a matured sea anemone cannot move. They can't move. They are fixed to the ground. But because of the hermit crab, wherever the hermit crab is going, this sea anemone also move with along with the hermit crab. So which means hermit crab is not harmed, but the sea anemone is getting benefited. So that is what we call it as commensalism. Mutualism means what? The example is fungi and algae. Fungi will eat algae. That not yeah. Fungi will eat algae as well as now say what is happening. The fungi will eat algae, right? That means the algae will give food to the fungi. Fungi will give protection to the algae. That means both of them are getting benefited, not harmed. So this is we call it as mutualistic lichen. So mutualistic lichen is under that word comes under the kingdom protista. So kingdom protista is having a good relationship with the fungi. That means especially the algae is having a good relationship with the fungi. We call it as mutualistic lichen. But remember, these words are very important that can come to your MCQ. Most of the MCQ I have seen that you have got the questions related to what? The questions related to the symbiotic relationship and so on. So remember this unit 15. I will again teach you this because the main part of the unit 15 is what? Symbiotic relationship. How this is taken place, how the animals are hunting, everything you will be learning, right? So till now, we have almost covered the things that I told you, which is important, and I hope that is clear with you. And I will be stopping from now here onwards, and I will be updating you a new time and everything. I will tell you the best way to learn science. The main thing is if you're learning science, try to study one comprehensive thing one time. That means say if you're studying only biology, you study only biology. Make sure, like I gave you a diagram, right? What are the important lessons? Make sure you go from the easiest lesson to the hardest lesson. Focus on easiest lesson, you will finish it quickly. If you focus on the hardest lesson first, if you keep on taking lot of time to the hardest lesson, the rest of the lessons will be on pending. So that is going to be a complete bad thing. Focus first lesson, what you are going to study is easiest lesson. When you study easiest lesson, you automatically you will be motivated. What you will do, you will be motivated. Your brain will think, ah, this is easy, we'll study. So automatically you will feel it's easy, I can do it, I can do it. And finally, when you get the hardest lesson, you will give your more effort to that, and you have plenty of time to study the hardest lesson. So that is the best way I would say you to study science. And make sure your O level will be easy. Yeah, it will be easy. If you study well, it will be easy. So if you don't study well, it will be hard. So it depends easy and hard in your hand. Every year they make the paper how they make every years. Like how they make the papers usually the same way they will be making, so you don't want to worry about that. So yeah, that's how you learn. Make sure study in like this way, study like this. If you are studying, study in early in the morning, don't spend too much at night. Don't be a night owl because your cortisol level will be high. When your cortisol level high in your body, the pressure also will get high. Finally, whatever you studied, you will forget. I don't know whether you have experience. Whole day you study, study, study. At night you spend. Suddenly you sleep and wake up. You forget what you learned because of the cortisol, because of the pressure. So make sure early in the morning, sleep early, wake up early, study in the morning because the best time to study is the morning. And that is how the researchers also proved morning is the best time. Try to study from like morning 3 o'clock until 5, stop, go to school, come back,
take rest, again study from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, sleep early, do stop everything, do like that. So that's how you have to be. Okay, right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining and have a good day. Take care. See you on the next class. Just let me know if the class was useful. I will be continuing the same way in the tomorrow's class and day after tomorrow. Good night, guys. Take care. I'm from Qatar. I'm living in Qatar currently, not in Sri Lanka. So here it's just 8 o'clock for us. Thank you so much. Good night. And I will be uploading everything. Protista, Kingdom Protista, I will teach you. Kingdom Protista has two things. One, you have the protozoa and algae. Protozoa is unicellular, heterotrophic. They will always cause disease to the human, like amoebiasis, malaria, sleeping sickness. But other part of the protista is the algae, who is always useful to the human to produce ice cream from the algae. Then you make they are multicellular, which you can see through your naked eyes, autotrophic, and also they are having a good relationship with the fungi. We call it as mutualistic lichen, which means the fungi is getting benefit from the algae, algae is getting benefit from the fungi, for example, like protection. So that is what is about the kingdom protista. Yeah, got it? Understood? Right. Thank you so much. Means a lot. Good night, guys. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Ruhma. See you. You're welcome, guys. Take care.